Hello, welcome to Dungeon Girls Podcast. I'm your host, Justin. By the way, those books are back there because we're doing Batman Month tomorrow, and those are some books we're going to review. So today we're reviewing a Marvel trade, Strikeforce Morituri, which the tagline is, "We who are about to die." You can see it there. Which this is written by Peter P. Gillis and with art by Brent Anderson. And if you're Image fan, Wiles Portacio from Wetworks drew a comic in here, like one issue. This book collects issues 1 through 13 of Strikeforce Morituri, which first was printed in 1986, right? And here's some interior art. That's the cover for the second volume, right? So I'm just gonna flip through here. You can just take a look at the art, and hopefully you don't get any death scenes, because boy, a lot of the characters die in this book. So, if you're basically, this book is, what if Marvel did a book where it was basically like a war drama, where they took elements of Starship Troopers, but with Marvel superhero action, right? So some of the characters in the book is Harold. I forget his Edmondson. I forget his last name. That's Harold, aka Viking. That's what's his name? Louis Arminetti as Radian. That's Janelle Anderson as Adept, which his powers, he can emit radiation through his hands. He has he's telepathic. Viking's telepathic and can redirect energy. Adept can analyze anything and come up with a way to counter it. That's Marathon, aka Robert Greenbaum, who's super strong, and well, they're all super strong, right? But he's stronger than most of them, and he can build up his strength. The less he fights, the more power he builds up, and to make him stronger. That's Snapdragon, who she can shoot like these energy blasts, and that's Blackthorn, which I forget her name. Yeah, which she can dissolve stuff she touches, right? And there's also, they introduce more members of the team later on, like where you can see some of them there. That girl's Scaredy Cat. She's a speedster. That girl is Toxin, who can poison people, and that's Scatterbrain, who can telepathically project emotions, right? Yeah. So the book is basically about Earth. This takes place in the future, where basically there's a one world government. I know. There's a one world government, and there's a nuclear. All the nations of the world have has disarmed all their nuclear weapons, right? And what happens after that is the Earth gets invaded by these space barbarians called the Horde, right? Which the Horde are pretty ugly. Here's one of them right there, and they wear little knickknacks that they take from the people they kill, right? And they even take they even take trophies, and in the one of their trophy rooms, you see a lot of references. There's a Green Lantern power battery. There's a Captain America's shield, right? And then there's there was the robot from Lost in Space. Oh, and there's this chick here who's the commander, right? And there's also the doctor character. Let's see if I can find him. Oh. Let's see if I can find him. Yeah, there he is. That's Dr. Tulami. So after So after they disarmed the nuclear weapons, it left them vulnerable to aliens' attack, right? And for 4 years, Earth lost its skies to these alien barbarians that will attack random cities, steal like resources, like even candy. They have a thing for chocolate. They steal candy items, and they even kidnap people for slaves, right? And you even get like like an origin story for the Horde, and you find out that they didn't even like come like a lot of their technology. They don't even know how to use. It's like technology they stolen from like other planets. Even their like spaceships, they stole like they were visited by peaceful aliens and they killed them and stole their spaceship, right? And the Horde are pretty horrific, right? Yeah, so like the way they come up, Earth comes up with a way to defeat the aliens that they're outmatched with. That's one of my problems. Well, I'll talk about later on in the book, right? Where yeah, like how they decide to fight the aliens is they come up with they do genetic engineering, right? Where they take basically young people in their early 20s or late teens, and put them through the Moriarty process, which gives our characters different superpowers, right? Well, it gives them strength and vulnerability, and then they'll awaken like other powers as well, right? And in the process, though, our characters only can live up to a year, right? So that's the trade-off. And the stronger their powers, the more likely they'll die sooner, right? So if somebody has really weak powers, they're more likely to live up to the year. But if you have like really strong powers, you'll burn out faster, right? So it's kind of like the brighter the flame, the faster the candle burns out, right? From that that analogy, right? Yeah. So like there's like a lot of like there's like a lot of um, Starship Troopers like stuff in this book where you have our main character who who's kind of a romantic joins the war effort, and he's like an amateur writer. He fell for like the propaganda, which the propaganda is like a comic book that he reads, right? Which talks about the first team of the see if I can find it. Oh, which talks about the first team of the Strikeforce Moriturity, which was called Black Watch, which are these three characters, right? Yeah, it's the thing where you have a comic book within a comic book, right? And this was written by Nicholas Boraki with art by Yurusu Berbento. I don't know if this is fake, but that's what they talk about, right? Though when they introduce these characters again, they race swap this guy and that guy. They make him Asian and him black, even though he looks pretty. That guy looks pretty Asian in this comic book, which that's Woody there. Which apparently there were 5 of them, but 2 of them died in the process of like awakening their powers, because how they awaken their secondary powers is through stress. So and it could take months for their powers to awaken, when like the characters can only maybe live up to a year, right? So like the second issue, they put our characters through something called the Garden, which is this like dangerous like simulated jungle with all these different traps that like could kill our characters. So they awaken their powers, but in the process they think some of them almost die, and it takes like Viking over the edge, and he almost kills the female commander because he thinks like she was bought out by the enemy or something. Even though like they know that it takes stress to it takes stress to awaken their powers, right? So yeah, I don't want to get too I don't want to spoil too much in this book, right? At least for my negatives of the book, right? But yeah, most of the stories is our characters, like living with the fact that they're gonna die within a year, and really getting frustrated with them having the downtime when they're not going out on missions fighting the Horde, right? Um, which the Horde is pretty horrific. There's like they the, when they start losing against the Moriarty, right? Strikeforce Moriarty, they come up with like pretty messed up ways to retaliate. At one point, they make these robot shoulders that are piloted by these severed human heads that are in constant pain, and they attach them to these robots, right? To these robots that are berserkers, where they just want to lash out and kill people, and the entire time they're screaming. So that was pretty horrific. Also, like I said, there's propaganda in this book and it gets a little meta where they have like a comic book version of themselves in the story, and they all trash it, right? Which there is some lightheartedness in this book, but the book gets really dark at times, right? Yeah, and there's lots of cool action, and like I really like the variety of the superpowers, right? And one of the characters who you think powers kind of suck, they use to great effect, right? And there's lots of cool action, and there's like there's a scene where New York gets attacked, right? And that was a pretty cool scene. Everybody goes out to, even the actors and like famous people. There's a party where like they go to party in New York to meet the actors who played them in like a propaganda TV show, right? And the actors, when the city gets attacked, even the actors go to grab guns to fight back. And like you see the towers of New York shoot up like the turret guns to shoot out the alien ships, which I thought that was really cool. Yeah, so like there's lots of cool action. And I really liked the characters. I thought the characters were all pretty much likable, though there are some lapses of judgment here and there, which I thought annoying, where I thought was annoying. Now to get into my dislikes of the book, they kill off some of our they kill off like some of the team members pretty early on in the book, in the series, like, and they kill off. Spoiler alert! I'm not gonna say who, but like they kill off some of the cooler characters first. Like it's like they chose to kill the characters from coolest to lamest. So like all the really cool characters die pretty much like halfway through the book, and then you're stuck with some of the lamer characters and the new team members, which are like not that don't have really cool costumes at all, though their powers are somewhat interesting. But like at one point they don't even decide who they lose a bunch of people, and they don't even decide who's the new leader. They wait for somebody to start spouting orders, and it's like a girl, that one of the new girls, and like, okay, she's the leader now. It's like, what? Dude, like you should like put some more thought on who's going to be taking who's going to be giving orders and stuff, right? And there was a thing where I thought the book would start to suck when like all the really cool characters died. But the book still stays good, though there is a thing where like our characters go off the rails and pretty much decide on their own actions, and the leadership really can't do much. So there's like a point where like they decide fuck it, and just they have a new team of Moriarty, Strikeforce Moriarty, and then the new team goes up against the old team in like the final issue, and that was a cool fight. But like it ends with a fatality, and there's like usually when like you see heroes fight each other and there's a fatality, usually you know, you would assume that would escalate things, but it just ended them, which is like, what the fuck? And I know the character probably died by accident, but still, man, that would have probably have escalated things. But overall, I did enjoy the book, right? Even though I didn't like some of the utopian bullshit, because especially since they're like they're even apparently hunting was outlawed in the future. So it's like, what the fuck, man? This future, it's like, no wonder you guys are getting like your asses kicked by the aliens, man. Which the aliens, well, that's another thing. In the first issue, our characters are supposed to stay in like a locked room and like, you know, in like the basement of the Strikeforce Moriarty's base, right? Until they they get their powers, right? And the leader decides to say, fuck this, let's go and fight. So they go out and fight the aliens without superpowers. Though one of them does have the first one of them has the first stage of the powers where they have super strength, but it's only one of them, right? And they go out with guns and they fight the horde and win, right? So it's like, why do you even need superpowers? Especially when it's a double-edged sword, right? And another problem I have with the book is that, and now this is more of a spoiler, though I'm not going to say who dies, but it's like um, all the characters that do die in this book die because they ran out of time, right? They burn out their powers and died. None of them die because they were killed by the enemy. And that really bothers me, because it's like, wow, they're more likely to die from their powers than they are from the enemy, right? Which is kind of dumb in my opinion. They should have made the horde more of a threat, though they are kind of like they are kind of barbaric and horrific. They kind of run out of ideas how to make them horrific, because the first thing they did was probably the most horrific, and then they just don't do it again. They come up with new ways, and it's less horrific. Though the sense of scale does escalate, but the scale of damage does escalate, but it's not as horrific. This was at times this was like a sci-fi horror, right? And then there's also the way they draw they have the text for the aliens, where they write them in a different text font, and you can barely. Had a very hard time understanding like what the aliens were saying in the different font, right? Which kind of pissed me off, because I could barely understand them, right? But overall, I did like the book, and despite the fact they killed off some of my favorite characters in the book, the way it's written, it still has me, you know, interested in continuing the series, even though the costumes and the characters get worse, right? Oh my god. Yeah, and the hairstyles in the book aren't very good. Yeah, but that's more like aesthetics, right? So my next comic book review, I was gonna do like a 4-issue. I was gonna review 4 random Image comic book issues, but that was if I still had time. Obviously, I don't have enough time, because, like, you know, Batman month starts tomorrow. So our next comic book review is going to be Dark Knight Strikes Again. Make sure to check that out. Though if you haven't read Dark Knight Returns, you probably want to read that before you watch my review of Dark Knight Strikes Again. All right, guys, that's it for